When I help my students with their research papers, one of the things I help them to do is connect to the UCI library. You can go to Google and search UCI library. You don't actually have to walk to the library. And an important thing to remember is if you're trying to connect to the UCI library off campus, you have to download some software that will help you to connect to the VPN. So if you're off campus, you need to be connected to the VPN. Otherwise, on campus Wi-Fi, you should be able to connect to the UCI library directly through on-campus Wi-Fi. Once you're at the UCI library, there are multiple ways to look up different topics and research different ideas. One of the basic things you can do is after you've done your search, you can add to that search. It's on the top right side of the search. You can also choose on the right side what your range you want to look at for your research that you're doing. A big part of your library research is considering your research question. When you consider your research question, you should make sure that it's not too broad or too narrow or something that's already been explored. When you're thinking about your research question, you should make sure that it's not overly simplistic. One way to avoid keeping your research question too broad or too open-ended would be to avoid yes/no questions. A research question that's a yes/no research question can be answered in just one word and doesn't make for a good paper. A good research question is going to contribute to academic discourse, which means it's hopefully answering a new question, something that hasn't already been answered. Something that is a topic that is relevant to you or other people that people would want to read the paper about, because your research question should guide your research in the library research that you are doing. When writing your research paper, you have to consider your research question and how you're going to do that research at the library. So library research involves you going online, looking at the UCI library online, and using your research question to help you decide what information you're going to look for and how you're going to limit that information. Library research, of course, could use something like Google Scholar. So you could start with Google. Google Scholar would be a better place to start. Some students might use Wikipedia. It's not the best place to do your research. It might be a place to start your research. And you could look at perhaps, say, the works cited or the references in a Wikipedia page and then go to those articles. But a better place for you to do your research for your research paper is using the UCI library resources. And the reason is because you pay to be a student and you have access to resources other people don't. Anybody can Google something. Anybody can use Google Scholar, but only students at universities, like students at UCI, can get their access to all of these great resources like peer-reviewed essays and papers and journals that otherwise would cost you a lot more money to access. One of the most difficult things about library research is coming up with a topic. When you're brainstorming your topic, think of something that's relevant to you and something that is a new topic that hasn't been fully explored. A lot of students get attached to an idea of what they want to write emotionally. I would suggest think more logically about the research that's out there. Write the paper that you can write rather than writing the paper that you want to write. You'll write a much better paper if you have one that's backed by good evidence to support your claims than if you write a paper that's just a topic that you feel you really want to write about. When doing your research at the library or wherever you're doing your research, one thing to think about is how you can find keywords to help you refine your search. If you're doing, say, a paper about preventative care, and you go to the UCI library and you type in preventative care, you may notice a keyword come up or a synonym for preventative care like prophylaxis. And then you see this word like prophylaxis, and you can add that to another keyword among adolescents. So instead of saying preventative care for teenagers, you could use the phrase prophylaxis for adolescents, and that would yield different results. As you refine your search, use these keywords to then find other keywords in the results that come up. And you should be able to access new research and new ideas that you haven't already encountered just by using synonyms or keywords when you do your library research. When you're doing your library research, just remember one thing you really want to avoid is writing a confirmation bias paper. A confirmation bias paper is where you come up with your claim before you have your evidence. So start with your evidence and then build your claim on that. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. My name is Brandon Wolf. Thank you for listening to me talk about library research and how you can do research for your research paper.